Welcome back to Switched to Linux. This is going to be the video where we walk through the KDE desktop environment in a little bit more detail. So I do have the KDE built up on just a brief desktop environment overview. And as I was working with that, I was actually very interested in playing with this further. I thought this might be a neat desktop system to run my in my main office. There's some things I really liked about it, and although I thought at another point it seems to be very different than the way I typically work, and so I really wanted to just play around with it a little bit, build a system that that could be used as either a media system or as a work system, and kind of come up back with my thoughts. So I've been working with this this desktop environment for I want to say it's either been 3 weeks or a month. I really can't remember which. And I'm going to show you the things about this system in a little bit more detail than I did in my desktop overview. And I'm going to highlight some of the issues that I've encountered with it, some of the current longer going things, and my final analysis after using KDE. Now first, I used KDE in the Linux Mint distro because I was very familiar with Linux Mint. I know from my other main computer that Linux Mint works very well, and I wanted to get a chance to see this not in the scope of KDE and OpenSUSE, which I've not used before, but rather KDE and Linux Mint, which I have used before. And so I'm going to walk through a little bit about what I've done and what I like about the distro, what I don't like about the distro. So first, the things that I really like is I really like the appearance. And this is a customizable part. Now I use this desktop theme here. This is the Oxygen theme, I believe, that is available when you first install the distro. It's one of the options that you have, and I'm using a dark theme on top of it. The hotkeys are a little bit different than many of the other hotkeys in the other distros. That's one of the things that I noticed getting used to it. The other thing that I'm just having a hard time getting used to is the click to open. So just one click opens a file, one click opens a folder, unless you click up here in the upper left-hand corner, then it will select it. One of the things, though, that I do really like is the context menu is just as robust as the context menu is in the Windows system. And that's something that I really like, that inside of here I can right-click, I can create a new folder, I can create a text file, an HTML file. I'm sure there's other things I can put in here pretty easy as well. We can open. I like the ability to drag and drop things and have the ability to copy from this direction rather than just simply whatever the default is, like I experience usually on the Mint platform. And I also like the ability to, it's on here somewhere, under Actions, I can open as root. This is one of the things that I really like in the Linux Mint environment, because there's times I want to do some manipulation inside of folders that you may not otherwise have the permissions for, and opening as root is a fabulous option. So with that being said, I chose this theme that is a little bit older in style, as it were, being that almost all of your modern devices and operating systems are going with these flat designs. I do not like the flat designs. I like looking at my computer. I don't like seeing a whole bunch of flat, bright colors and contrasty colors. I like a cool looking design, and I just really like the way this works. Now, if you do like those flat designs, there are options for that inside of the menu. Now, the other thing that I like is the ability in KDE to change my menu around. So I went with this basic menu here, just because it's a little bit more more advanced of a menu, just a little bit better than some of the older traditional Windows type menus, which is still available. I also put over here on the right side, I did put a hotkey to this menu here as well. So you do have that option as well. And I could have put any one of those menus down here at the bottom. I chose this one. Or you could do no menu at all. Now, the other thing that I was initially disappointed with OpenSUSE, but I did find the option to lock your widgets, is that I can still put my Show Desktop in the bottom corner. Now, the problem is that the default is the Mac type interface where it throws all the windows out up to the side, and I really don't like that option. I like when I come down here, hit the Show Desktop, basically I want it to minimize all of the windows. Now, one of my problems that I listed on my KDE's issues sheet here that I was going to point out is that I had difficulty getting that thing installed. However, after playing with KDE on an OpenSUSE VirtualBox, I found that, yeah, it's always been there. If you come under here, we'd have to unlock the widgets. If we come over here and add widgets, and we have the Get New Widgets, you can actually install it quickly. So that was my mistake. I went the long way around compiling the minimized windows from the source code. It's there, available. But anyway, you can have the Mac type version where it throws everything up and out of the way. I absolutely hate that. And that is my biggest complaint with the Mac, that I cannot hit a button to minimize everything. I hit it, and then I go to the next window, and all the crap pops right back in my face, and I don't like that. I like the option to minimize all windows like Windows does, which is the basic default in Linux Mint Cinnamon, but I had to actually put that feature in here in the KDE system. I put my weather up here on the desktop for the State College, so I can see what the weather is. The second box here is actually a status indicator with my Samsung Galaxy. And what I really like is I can just click this right here and go right into the file directory for the Android. So this makes getting the photographs, I may not have hit it right. Oh, it failed to mount. I'm not completely sure why that is. It's very possible because I've been out of the office for a while. So basically, though, it will show me any of the notifications. If I'm playing any of the basic integrated media systems like Banshee, Rhythmbox, it will pause the music if somebody calls. Usually it works just fine. If I click the button, I get my, my indications there. I've been in and out of the office moving, so I'm not sure what I had. So I put some of the more frequently used applications over here, my basic internet, FileZilla, and the Bluefish editor for my web design work, GIMP, my office resources, my email, which I've also put down here. Skype works just fine. However, it does give me that same issue with Skype on Linux in general, is that if I'm sharing and viewing somebody else's screen, it's really horrible looking. I'm guessing that when Microsoft releases the one client to rule them all that they're working on, that'll actually hopefully resolve that. The only real Windows program that I really want to run is my Warcraft, so I'm running this through Play on Linux, which actually was a pain to get installed. This did not install easily. I probably tried a good 15-20 times before I got it working. Once it's working, it works way better than the other distros that I'm also running this program on. Now, one of the challenges that I had, so what I tried to do is I wanted to review the computer in the context of both things I might use a computer for. Now, this computer sits where my media computer is. So I have in my office, this is my center computer. To the left of this computer is a Mac computer, where I get some of my work done. And to the right of this is a Windows computer, where I also get some of my work done. So this computer that sits here either runs Windows 8, it runs Ubuntu 16, or it runs KDE Linux Mint, like we're doing here. And so usually this is what I'm watching a video on YouTube, maybe I'm watching a movie on, whatever happens to work out well, this kind of is that media system. But I also wanted to build a website for somebody on this computer, which to give me an idea, how does it work not just with the media, but also how does it work as a production computer in the context of my work and my business. So One of the things I did is I played around with the different media applications. So if I look at the media applications, the default audio player is Amarok, which I just could not get used to, and the video player was Dragon Player, which I thought was okay. Now I installed Banshee, I installed Rhythmbox, I either installed or it came with VLC, I can't remember, and I actually installed Kodi as well, which you can see over here. So what I found, initially this did not work very good for a media computer. A couple of problems. The first major problem is caffeine. You can see I have caffeine running down here. It doesn't work at all. I can turn this on, I can turn it off. It never pauses the screen. It never allows me to do anything. The only media system that I can run on this computer where it does not black out the screen if I don't touch the mouse is Kodi. So if I run Kodi, I can run things. Now, I usually am just using the Kodi for movies. So I launched Kodi up, and and another big issue is I have a NAS drive that runs my movies and my music in the office. I could not get that NAS drive working very well without going into my system files and kind of permanently attaching those two drives. But once I did that, Kodi worked absolutely flawlessly. Banshee works just fine. Rhythmbox, I think Rhythmbox I put on there for podcasts. VLC, I could not get VLC working very well. It just had a really hard time interfacing and getting my list. So it was just too difficult to work through. And then, yeah, look at that. Somebody just sent me a text message. All right. So that was actually a text message. You can see it just showed up on my system there. And then over here, let's see. Banshee worked great for all of my music files. So that's what I end up doing. If I'm listening to music, I'm playing Banshee. If I'm putting a movie on this, I'm doing Kodi. Now, initially, for the first half of the time I was using this, about every 5 minutes or so, I'd get a little glitch in the video. That seems to have been updated. I did see an FFmpeg update come through the system through the automatic updates, and I think that took care of it. And it wasn't an issue of a network thing. It would do it if it was a file on the computer, or it would do it if it was over the internet, over YouTube, or I also watched some things on Yahoo View. Just watched some free documentaries and a couple programs there. So overall, the media systems, the only thing I really could not get working, if you can resolve this, let me know. I cannot get caffeine to work. It's here. It works great on Ubuntu. It doesn't work great here on KDE. And I have not tested it on Linux Mint Cinnamon. I just don't use that computer for a lot of media stuff. So, but for this computer here, if I'm watching something on Yahoo View, if I'm watching something on YouTube, if I don't touch the mouse every 20 minutes, the screen goes black. The video's still playing, but the screen goes black. Kodi does not do that. So if I load up Kodi, it just does just fine. That was my first major issue. Couple system settings inside of the applications. You can see here that I have the name up here and the type of file down here. So Firefox web browser and then web browser. Well, initially the way that the system is set up, it actually flips these around. So it'll give me web browser, web browser, web browser, and then in the smaller text tells me which one it is, which obviously I can see from the logo, but I really wanted the main name to the top. That was a simple setting that I toggled. No big deal. Samba is not installed, and I got that installed and working somewhat. This computer is a little patchier working with the rest of my network. My Mac system, my Windows system, my Ubuntu, my Linux Mint Cinnamon, they all play nice. This guy here, I just could not get the networking stuff to play nice. And UPnP, forget it. In fact, I've even seen some posts online that say KDE and UPnP just doesn't work. And that's kind of relevant because my NAS drive runs a UPnP port that I use to interface all my tablets and phones and whatever else, so all of my music can be accessed from any of the devices on my network. I can't get it to work, so that's why I had to go through the painstaking annoyance of booting, just mounting. I had to mount the music files into the system at system start because I can't get UPnP to work. Let's see, the Firefox issue, that was a Linux Mint thing, not a KDE. I'm not going to go there, but you can check out my installing different search engines on Firefox on Linux Mint for information on that. I did a video. Let's see, Kmail. Okay, so Kmail was an interesting one, and I'm not going to open it because I'm using it with all my emails for client privacy and whatever. But Kmail, here, what I really like about it is an email platform that works out of the box just like the old Outlook platform, and that's exactly the type of email system I want. So usually I would install Evolution. I just went right with Kmail because it did exactly what I wanted it to do. I can sort multiple email addresses into one unified box without seeing this giant list of accounts on the side because I got 10, 15 email addresses. And then I could use rules to sort them into different folders. But there were a few hitches. The first, when you set up a POP account, which is how I generally run my systems, it actually has the default to delete the messages from the server when it's first downloaded, and that is dangerous. I really wish they would uncheck that by default. So every email address I had to go in there, check the settings before checking the email, so I could toggle that setting so it did not remove the file, the emails from my server. So I have one computer in my office that clears the emails off the server in about 20 days because I need to be able to get all of those emails on all of my devices, and I delete them from the various devices as I go. The other problem I had with Kmail is you have to set all of the addresses you plan to check as aliases inside your main profile. I did not know this, and when I had first set up 3 email addresses to test them, every time I'd hit the check mail, it would delete all my old folders that things were being sorted into. Well, what was happening is it did not know that all 3 of them were the same profile box, and so it reset a default profile for the other platforms, and that caused a major problem. So once I got that figured out, Kmail's great. I love Kmail now. Let's see, media, we talked about that, and the start menu setup. I'm not sure what I had on there. I'm not sure what number 8 was about. But anyway, that's just kind of briefly a real quick walkthrough. Some of the other things I had set up well is this guy here. This is a color picker. This is a totally awesome tool that I like for my web design stuff because I was able to pull this up so I could just have a look as to what my my colors are for websites. One of the things I usually am doing is I have a sticky note where, whatever website I'm working on right now, here's all the colors, my links, my text, whatever else on a sticky note. Well, now I can actually put them inside this color picker, which is a pretty cool thing. Also, the clipboard guy here, I'm not going to open that because there might be passwords in there somewhere. I'm not going to do that. But this will give me a running list of all my clipboard items, so I can go back into my clipboard items. Very nice system. Then I just put a little image gallery here. This is just summer vacation photos. I just put it down there. Just my Windows computer has a little gallery there, and I kind of like to see that. So that's what I did. Is I put a little gallery there just for fun. Now for the workflow, on my main work computers, I actually have my system set up as in kind of a quadrant. Kind of in the top is my my personal stuff. Down on the lower quadrant to the right, I have all my various client things. Lower quadrant to the left is I have current open invoices, so I can keep track of who's paid what. And the top right is just kind of a mess of things I need to deal with. So utilizing the desktop as a basic desktop platform in KDE is quite a bit of a pain. But what I do like is these boxes that allows me to move things around. So here, I've unlocked the widgets, so now I should be able to drag some boxes around. So what I've actually done here is this, the bottom box here is my main website box, which has the various different folders in here that I would be working in. And then what I did for up here, the middle box, and I would have a separate box for each project I'd be working on. So I have my access files, my various assets. This is the WordPress theme I'm working on, and this is the backup of the old server. So the theory is that each one of the websites I'm currently actively working on has its own box. Now I'm working on more than one. I'm just happen to use my other computer for most of the stuff. This is the one site that I did over here. I was able to change the icons around a little bit. I'm utilizing this top box up here as just kind of a holding ground for things. So the video I'm recording here is going to be up in this box. An image I want to deal with, listing some things on Craigslist is kind of there for now until I delete those or whatever else. I made my share folder just a slightly different color just to make it easier to stick out. This is actually the first computer I'm ever using the downloads folder for downloads. Usually I just save things right to the desktop, but I just thought, hey, since this system here is working the way it is, I'm just going to use the downloads folder. Now, major problem doing web design stuff. This is the system I cannot get I cannot get Bluefish to actually edit files directly on the server. Now I wanted to double check to make sure this wasn't just a problem with Linux Mint in general, so I did do the same exact process on my Linux Mint Cinnamon computer. If I go into my folder browser here, and I come up here somewhere, there it is, I can actually go into an FTP site. And I could actually go into any given FTP site and I can log right in. The problem is the Dolphin system does not mount that folder into the file structure in such a way that Bluefish can actually access it. And so on Linux Mint Cinnamon, it does. And so when I mount into a FTP directory on Cinnamon using this method and load up Bluefish Editor, I will see that folder in Bluefish Editor, and I can therefore edit files directly on the server just by loading up any of those. And I think that's Nemo, I think is what that runs. So apparently Nemo beats the Dolphins. Sorry, Dolphin, the little tiny fish that gets lost easily, you know, beat you out. Now, I thought about how can I fix this. So what I did is I used another program to mount an FTP directory onto the file structure. Well, that allowed me to access files, but I still was not able to edit them through Bluefish Editor because somewhere KDE just locks down permissions way more than I would like it to, and I cannot be mounted into the file structure and edit a file. I can at least open it in Bluefish, but if I hit to save, I have permission issues, so I can't do that. So what I end up doing is mounting the FTP directory utilizing a script, and what I did, oh, it's not there, it's under Access. Under Access, I actually basically wrote a mount script and a dismount script, and so I just right-click this guy, and I run it in Bash, and then it will actually mount the FTP directory over here. Now I can edit the files, and what I end up doing is I edit the files up here in the main theme directory, and then inside of Bluefish I come up and I can download properly now as well. So I can hit this. So it slows down my process, and that I have to hit this button every single time that I'm making a single structure. I have to come down here, and it's basically I lose a little bit of time. Okay, but then if I do not use the FTP directory for a while, and the timeout occurs, which is about 20 minutes on the particular site I was working on here, and I try and access that folder, the entire desktop crashes. I get a complete hang. The only thing I can do about it is force the computer off with the power button and reboot the computer. And then I have to go in, unmount my script, restart the computer again, and then I can remount the script. So, all that being said, KDE for me, not a work computer. It has too many bugs. The FTP structure doesn't work well. I can't edit files directly on the server. Media files, pretty good. As a main office computer, I kind of like it. I really like the look of it, the look of the thing. I like how it interfaces. I like how cool it looks. I'm going to keep it around. I'm not doing away with my KDE desktop anytime soon. I really like it. But as far as production is concerned, KDE is not where I'm going to be doing any of my production work. It's just too difficult with my workflow. I can't seem to get anything that edits the files directly on the server. And I gotta say that when I travel and I take my Cinnamon computer works just as well as my in-office development computer does. KDE, not really. But I do really like it for the email platform. I can get my emails sent and received very well. It's now doing a very good job on the video. I can do my editing blog posts on it. Overall, I like KDE. It's just not a production computer in the scope of my business and what I'm doing. So that's kind of my more in-depth review. If you want to know how I set this up or any of the widgets I'm using or not using, or if you have any tips or tricks for me about this, go ahead and let me know. In the meantime, this is Tom, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.